Welcome back to The Income Generation. As promised, we are here today with great American thinker, James Dale Davidson. He is the author of The Sovereign Individual, editor of Strategic Investment Newsletter, contributor to the Financial Intelligence Report, and also a founding director of Newsmax. James, welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you.
Good. I'd like to hear from you for a moment about why you initially wrote the book and why the book seems even more relevant today than perhaps it was 17 years ago.
Well, I think maybe today more of the things that we envisioned have come to pass, and it's easier for people to see that we knew what we were talking about or that we were thinking along the right lines. I wrote this book with Lord Rees-Mogg, who is now deceased, unfortunately, but we were trying to shed some forward vision on the way the world was destined to change. And I thought that basically that the move toward microprocessing was going to lead to micro production and the miniaturization of things rather than the mass production, which was the characteristic of the 20th century, taken to its epitome in China when everybody had a one-size-fit-all clothing. Not only policies, but you all had to wear Mao clothes, and they had to be the same size. I mean, they were all manufactured at one size. It was like socks sometimes are, you know, that one size fits all.
It reminds me of my days in Catholic high school. I kind of felt that way. We were all dressed to look the same.
Yes, but it didn't survive the test of time because really people would prefer to have clothes that fit them. There's a company now called the Left Shoe Company that manufactures shoes specifically to your feet, the way the old-fashioned bootmakers in London used to have a last with your name on it, and they made all the shoes to fit your foot. And this is the coming way in the world. We've changed. We now have 3D printing that can manufacture all kinds of things specifically to order.
Let me ask you, how much of that do you think is due to the baby boomers? You know, the baby boomers want things that are custom for them. What's your thoughts?
I think the baby boomers, of which I am an incarnate example, were the last generation who could grow up being spoiled by the myth that America is the richest country in the world, which we used to hear. I used to hear this all the time when I was a kid.
Are you saying it's a myth now, or was it a myth long ago?
It was true then. It's not now. My parents used to bludgeon me to eat my broccoli by telling me that there were starving children in Europe, and then the starving children moved to Africa. But we've all heard about them, right?
And I think you and I almost grew up in the same household.
Yes. So I had to eat my broccoli, and I did take seriously this idea that we were the richest country in the world, and it seemed like there was a lot of fat in the land that took a little of the edge off of life, that my father's generation, who grew up in the Depression, did not feel this easy attitude toward things. And it now seems like his view was right when we see the world collapsing into deflation as it is.
Changing gears, I know you've told me in the past your concerns about China and so on, but I'd like to focus on the United States, because I know you also have concerns about the markets, the stock market here in the United States. And I'd like to take the last 3 minutes or so we have to talk about, you know, our viewers are always hearing me talk about the concerns about the U.S. market, but I'd like to hear it directly from you why you're so concerned about the current levels.
Well, I think it goes back to something very basic, which is that if you go back 4 or 5 years, and look at the revenues of companies, their top line revenues and their actual profits, which we would count as a profit as money that you make that's left over after you've met your costs that you could walk out the door with without being arrested, right?
Sure, that's right.
So they have not grown at all, while the stock market, if you look at the price of the shares, has gone staggeringly higher. And I think that you can't continue to financially engineer higher stock prices made on fictitious money, or what Marx in one of his lucid moments called fictitious capital.
Last 10 seconds. How low do you see the possibility of the Dow getting when all this stuff comes to roost?
Well, I think it could easily go down 50% from 50%. Here.
Yeah,
Easily.
agree completely. That's great. James, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure,
Good.
David.
Thank you. And don't go anywhere. Again, thank you very much to James Dale Davidson for adding a lot of knowledge and wisdom. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.